This presentation is on keeping your relationship intact, strategies to create a strong and healthy marriage or partnership. I'm Lisa Graziano, and I will be the presenter of this presentation. So I have a quick disclaimer. Marital relationships are complex, so despite having a master's degree in clinical psychology with an emphasis on marriage and family therapy, and despite being a licensed marriage and family therapist with over 30 years specializing in treating couples, and despite having been married for 38 years, 26 of which those have been raising our son with Prader-Willi syndrome, I don't have the answers to your relationship bliss, but the information and strategies you'll learn today are research-based and clinically based, so take what fits, discard what has nothing to do with you and your family, and tuck the rest away for future consideration. So I saw this little cartoon a little bit ago on kids' advice on marriage. How would you make marriage work? Was asked of a little guy who said, tell your wife she looks pretty even if she looks like a dump truck. And so I thought, well, that would be interesting to see what PWS mom's advice to dads would be on how would you make a marriage work. And what we got was pretty much like, hey, tell your wife you'll learn everything you can about PWS and how to manage symptoms and be involved with daily care, and then do it. And then dad's advice to moms on marriage, on how to make a marriage work. Pretty much what we received was tell your husband that you appreciate what he's doing to support you and the kids and the whole family, and prioritize and pay attention to your husband. So all marriages experience stressors. All couples disagree, feel hurt, angry, or overwhelmed at various times throughout their marriage. It's how we disagree, argue, express our anger, disappointments, wants, and needs that differentiates a healthy marriage from a less healthy marriage. Our challenge then is not to eliminate the stressors on our marriage and on our family, because that's really not possible. Our challenge is to learn how to manage the stressors that come at us and utilize each other as a support system. So let's take a quick look at the science of human connection. So human connection means safety. Human beings are neurocognitively hardwired to connect with each other for survival purposes. Cavemen who hunted together were far more successful than cavemen who hunted alone. So cavemen who hunted alone, they didn't survive. Likewise, cave women who looked after one another and their clan were far more likely to survive than those who kept to themselves. So deep in the inescapably influencing primitive parts of our brain, including the amygdala, we have learned that connecting with other human beings equals survival. Connection feels like our partner has our back, won't let us down, is here for us. This is emotional safety. So what happens if emotional safety is threatened? Well, the primitive parts of our brain do not differentiate between physical safety and emotional safety. They're the same to the primitive brain. Emotional pain is just as dangerous to our survival as physical pain, so says our brain. Our partner is supposed to feel like the safest person in our life. So when we have an interaction with our partner that feels emotionally disconnecting, our primitive brain may immediately perceive that we are in some way unsafe. Am I about to be rejected? Am I about to be abandoned? To our primitive brain, disconnection is rejection or abandonment and threatens our very survival. So what does emotional disconnect feel like? Well, each of us is uniquely sensitive to feel emotionally disconnected from our partner at the primitive brain level. And we will feel kind of maybe differently, right? Maybe we feel disconnected when our partner interrupts us or speaks over us, when they fail to remember something important about us, when they forget something or forget to do something for us, or when we feel ignored or criticized or devalued in some way. How do we know that the reaction we're having is actually at the primitive brain level? Well, when our primitive brain feels threatened, it will trigger central nervous system to release neurochemicals intended to activate us to respond to that threat. So we may experience muscle tightness or tenseness, stomach issues, increased heart rate, sweating, confused thoughts, or an automatic urge to either fight, yell, or argue, or run away physically or mentally, or just shut down. So let's take a look at what is your primitive brain afraid will happen if you are emotionally disconnected from your partner. So think about this. Which box that I'm going to show you contains more checks when you answer the question, when my partner is upset with me, I am most afraid of. So when your partner is upset with you, are you most afraid of being abandoned or being invisible or being unwanted? Do you more resonate with my feelings don't matter to my partner? I don't matter to my partner. I feel dismissed. I yell to get a response, any response. Or do you answer the question when my partner is upset with me, I am most afraid of being rejected, being a disappointment to my partner, failing? Do you more resonate with I give up. I can't please my partner. It's best to just avoid a fight, keep things calm, and not say anything. Remember the color of the box that contains the greater number of checks you just did in your mental head. So, how we react when we suddenly feel emotionally disconnected from our partner is dependent upon our temperament, our individual character makeup, reflects the way we've learned to protect ourselves from hurt or overwhelm in our family of origin or other important relationships. It's dependent upon our sympathetic nervous system's threat response, right? That fight, whether we're going to physically or verbally fight. And do remember, anger is a mobilizing emotion, so we may respond to anxiety or fear with anger. So do we fight? Do we flee, turn away, walk away, just leave an argument? Do we freeze? Do we not respond? Do we not move? Do we hold our breath? Do we numb out? Or do we fawn? Do we become overly apologetic, or we just pacify our partner and we just don't say no? How we react when we suddenly feel emotionally disconnected from our partner will cause us to demand that our partner emotionally reconnect with us so that we feel safe again, or cause us to withdraw from our partner so that we feel emotionally safe again. So let's take a look at what is your primitive brain's reaction automatically when you feel emotionally disconnected from your partner. So again, which box contains more checks when you answer the question, when I suddenly don't feel safely connected to my partner, I usually complain or become critical, become angry, blow up and yell, or blame or point out their mistakes and tell them how to change or improve, or express my frustration with anger, or define them as being the problem, and then prod them to continue the conversation or the discussion. Or do you answer the question, when I suddenly don't feel safely connected to my partner, I usually stay in my head, I don't listen, I just kind of zone out, or I shut them out, or I change the subject, or I stop the conversation by leaving or turning it to a different task, or just walk away? Do I find an exit just to try to get away? Or do I kind of pull into my shell like a turtle and just give up? Remember the color of box that contains the greater number of checks, pink or blue. So what is your primitive brain's automatic fear and automatic reaction to emotional disconnection? Well, if you checked more boxes in pink, then your automatic primitive brain response mode is that of a demander. Demanders often feel ignored, demand more to feel safe, which pushes their partner away even more. And so the cycle continues. If you checked more boxes in, pardon me, in blue, your automatic primitive response mode is generally that of a withdrawer, right? Withdrawers often feel attacked and then withdraw even more to feel safe, which pushes their partner away even more. And so the cycle continues. Over time, a demanding withdrawing cycle can develop that dominates how we interact with our partner and how our partner interacts with us. Just a note, our loved ones with Prader-Willi syndrome, they often primitively react as the demander, as you'll no doubt notice at some point. So what does all of this mean to our marriage? It means that there are unconscious reasons why we react the way we do and why we feel hurt by our spouse. And these unconscious reactions can dictate how we respond to our partner, how our partner perceives our response, and then responds to us, and then establishes patterns of interaction that can eventually dictate whether we turn toward or away from our partner during times of stress. The more we're aware of how we're first influenced by our primitive brain, the greater ability we're going to have to manage these feelings, think more clearly, and comfort ourselves so that we can respond to our partner in healthier ways that promote safer connection instead of escalating the disconnect. This is the hard, and marriage is hard. This is also the power in successful marriages. So let's take a look at some PWS stressors on couples and strategies how to manage them, right? So we know that there are some significant stressors on new parents, right? The birth trauma, the diagnosis, how the trauma of getting the diagnosis, interventions that just overwhelm us, exhaustion from lack of sleep, myriad medical and therapy appointments, different emotional reactions than our spouse, right? Sadness, worry, numb, shock, guilt, shame, overwhelm, despair, fear, jealousy, isolation, aloneness. Our partner may have different feelings than we have, any one of these or more. Different coping strategies or self-comforting abilities or grief states than our spouse can add to stressors, right? That denial, this isn't happening to me. Anger, why is this happening to me? Bargaining, I promise I'll be a better person if only. Depression, I don't care anymore. Or acceptance, I'm ready for whatever comes, we'll figure it out. If we're in a denial space and our partner is in an acceptance space, we're probably going to butt heads a little bit of times, right? And that could be stressful for both partners. Another stress could be the real or perceived lack of support from our partner or from extended family or from friends. Different explanatory mindsets than our spouse, right? In my family, I'm the eternal optimist. Everything's going to work out. And my husband is more the realist, right? Often, maybe sometimes the pessimist. I call him Eeyore. And sometimes that can kind of get in our way. And certainly, very, very real stressors, financial stressors. How are we going to pay the medical bills, insurance battles? These are all very real stressors on the new parent. What about stressors on the established parent? They're exactly the same. They just take maybe some different forms, right? There could be re-traumatization of new symptoms, right? Things that we were hoping wouldn't happen and maybe they do, or the absence of milestones we were hoping would occur, but they're not, or even peer comparison. And certainly the continuous exhaustion from the overwhelming parenting demands. So what are some strategies to manage these special stressors? Well, a big baseline strategy is breathing. When you take 3 deep breaths, when you're feeling any degree of stress, this activates your brain's release of calming neurochemicals that will help you actually feel better in the moment and think more clearly in the moment. Find support, family and friends who actually get it. PWS support groups, PWS Facebook groups, maybe even a professional therapist. Find support. Identify and train up babysitters and respite providers so you can take breaks. Utilize the PWS organizations in your area to help provide any needed behavior training. for the babysitters and respite providers that you identify. Identify specialized professionals to help you navigate what you need to navigate over the years. In the beginning, early intervention services, right? School support services, IEPs, PWS behavior management strategies for sure, family and special needs trusts, ABLE accounts, and of course, in the United States, all of the age 18 tasks we need to do. Remind yourself that stress and experiences of disconnect can increase when partners have different emotional reactions, are in different grief states, or have different explanatory mindsets. Be compassionate with and comforting of yourself as well as your partner. This might sound like just telling yourself and partner, this is hard. We'll figure it out though. We'll be okay. Feelings are temporary. My sadness or my anger will lessen over time. That's for sure. I didn't marry a jerk. So if my partner's acting like a jerk, he or she must be feeling some stress. So the next thing I want to kind of look at is the shame of PWS blame because both newly diagnosed and, all too often I hear very, very experienced parents really can blame themselves still or blame their partner for the PWS diagnosis. And whether we say it out loud or we just think it, blame can negatively influence us and our interactions with our partner. Since there's no cause of PWS, really, blaming ourselves or our partner really is a shame. So dads may often blame themselves, especially if the child has deletion subtype, or blame their wife, especially if the child has UPD, uniparental disomy subtype, or just blame the universe. Moms may blame themselves, especially if the child has UPD, or blame their husband, especially if the child has deletion, or blame the universe. Some strategies to manage this blame is just please remind yourself and your spouse there's nothing that either of you did or didn't do to cause your child to have PWS. It's just simply a part of the human condition, and it's been documented going back hundreds of years. Seek out and accept support from your partner, family and friends who really do get it, online and in person PWS support groups. Remind yourself and your spouse you will work together to do everything within your power to minimize your child's and your whole or your adult's symptoms while you create a good life for your family and build new dreams. Chronic grief is a part of Prader-Willi syndrome, and parents of a child or an adult with PWS typically experience chronic grief, which is just periodic recurring feelings of sadness or fear or helplessness or anger or frustration, or have kind of a preoccupation or a longing for something in particular, right? Chronic sorrow is a normal consequences of having a child with a disability. New losses, healthcare crises, developmental milestones, or lack thereof, can stir up old feelings of loss. Maybe when siblings or same age peers, maybe when they learn to drive, or when they start dating, or when they graduate, or when they leave the family home, or when they marry. We might feel some chronic grief for our child with Prader-Willi syndrome. Or when we see family or friends becoming grandparents, we might experience our chronic grief again. Chronic sorrow does not mean we don't love or feel a great deal of pride in our child with Prader-Willi syndrome. These feelings coexist along with the sorrow. And interestingly, research kind of shows that mothers experience more intense chronic sorrow compared with fathers. And I don't have a reason why. Maybe you can talk about this with your partner. Let's take a look now at some strategies to manage PWS's chronic grief. Again, breathe, breathe, breathe to activate your brain's release of calming neurochemicals to help you feel better. Just think more clearly. Give yourself permission, maybe, to experience whatever you're feeling. Give yourself maybe a boundary of time to just feel your feelings and then schedule it. Something like maybe, you know what, tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock before anybody else gets up in the morning, I'm going to fix myself a nice cup of coffee. I'm going to take it outside in the backyard. I'm just going to let myself feel sad or cry or whatever I want to do, zone out for 10 solid minutes. And then when I'm done, I'll come in and I'll get on with the day. Remind yourself that whatever feeling you're feeling, you are not alone, and that these and all feelings are just temporary and will pass. Use gentle self-talk to comfort yourself through your feelings of loss, sadness, grief. Maybe that sounds like this is hard. We'll figure it out though, and we'll create a good life. I don't know how. This is hard, and we'll figure it out. That can be self-comforting. Do remind yourself that support is available if you look for it. There isn't a feeling or a thought that you have that someone else hasn't also had. You're not alone. For every person who doesn't get it, there is someone in your orbit who can get it. Look for them, connect with them. Some people, including our partner, don't know what to say to be comforting, and therefore they say nothing at all, so they don't say the wrong thing. Give them grace. Maybe that sounds like, I appreciate your listening to me. Some people, including your partner, think they know what to say and to be comforting, and then they say the stupidest thing. Take a breath and give them grace. That might sound like, thank you for trying to help. Sometimes what your partner needs most from you is simply the safety of knowing that they can express whatever feelings they're feeling in the moment with you. Listen to them and remind yourself their feeling will pass too. So there are some common marital challenges and management strategies I'd like to share next. You know, what are the top five things that all couples fight about? What are they? Well, money, sex, in-laws, chores, child rearing. Well, what are the top five things that PWS couples fight about? Well, guess what? They're the same. Money, sex, in-laws, chores, child rearing, except that our issues are like on steroids, right? Let's take a look at a few of these. How do we manage the stressors related to money? Well, discuss in detail and reach agreement with your partner for how you're going to allocate and manage your family's resources, be they for medical and therapy needs, household and educational needs, future saving for your child with Prader-Willi syndrome, and maybe any other children you have. How are you going to manage vacations, retirement? Look for experts to help you and guide you in the financial decisions you need to make. We weren't born in this as financial experts, right? Unless we're really lucky. Do not think of money as a barometer of love or caring, please, right? For instance, if you really loved me or our child, you'd agree to pay for that very expensive hippotherapy. That's really not the case, right? Sex. Women typically feel more sexual when they feel emotionally close to their partner. Men typically have sex in order to feel emotionally close to their partner. So, depending upon who you are, woo your partner. Not to get sex, but to get connected. Leave love notes. Give a foot or neck massage. Wash the dishes if you don't normally. Do the laundry if you don't normally. Give the cook a break with a take-home meal. Prepare a dessert picnic in bed after the kids have gone to sleep, or plan a date night, including making the reservation and identifying and training up the babysitter and writing down all of the instructions. In-laws and extended family members are top complaints for PWS couples. So educate all of the extended family member about PWS. Provide them with brochures or articles. Invite them to conferences or be available to answer their questions. Be specific in your requests for help and make your corrections in what they're doing kindly. Limit extended family member time if necessary. Suspend relationships that are destructive to your child or adult with PWS or to your family. If grandma doesn't follow your food rules, You cannot permit grandma to babysit. That will undermine everything you're trying to create. Support your spouse in front of your parents and in-laws. Don't gossip or speak poorly about your spouse or your partner to other family members. Chores are also a top complaint in PWS couples, where overwhelm and fatigue are just really always present. Moms often complain of having to do everything. Dads often complain of having to work longer and harder and feeling less connected to the family they're working so hard for. So discuss in detail and reach agreement about division of labor responsibilities. Ask for directly and clearly what you need help with. Take a chore when needed, trade a chore when needed, and be flexible in chore and task sharing and express appreciation. Child rearing, right? Kids and adults with PWS present unique and often extremely challenging parenting experiences. And remember, learning PWS specific behavior management strategies as early in your child's life as possible will save you a lot of challenge later in life. But we can always learn PWS behavior management strategies. Discuss in detail about how to manage any differences that you have with your partner in child rearing philosophies, right? Some of us might be holding on to the thought that children should be seen and not heard. And if their partner says, but equal input is how I run things, there's going to be conflict there. So discuss that in detail. Discuss your disciplining philosophies. If one of you is too harsh or too hard, the other may be too soft or permissive to try to accommodate, and vice versa. Discuss these in great detail. Discuss with your partner your attitudes about disabilities in general, right? And PWS specifically. Is one of you holding more shame or anger? Right? Talk about it. There may be differences in coping styles or adaptability or degrees of acceptance of the disability or where you are in your lives. Beliefs regarding therapies, treatments, medical interventions, these absolutely need to be talked about between you in detail. Attend PWS conferences, behavior management trainings specific to Prader-Willi syndrome. Go to support group meetings if you have any, whether online or in person, preferably going together. But if you can't, then taking the time to have one partner who did attend teach the other about what y'all learned. Identify babysitters and respite providers. Maybe you reach out to your state and local agencies or the local university to identify students studying special ed, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech and language therapy, and then they can volunteer to work in your home. They get the experience and you get the help, right? Train them up. Prader-Willi California Foundation has a lovely babysitting training tool. So contact us. Maybe we can help you. Present a united marital front. Don't overrule or undermine the other partner's authority in front of other family members. Unless the partner is abusive, then you must speak up. If you don't agree with something, ask for a private conversation. Disagree and argue in healthy ways that model how to express disagreement and strong emotion. Make a plan to respond to, hey, mom said I could, or dad lets me. I often hear, well, what do I do when my partner disagrees with what I think or what I know is best? Compromises are hard to reach, especially when we're emotionally invested in the outcome. And of course, there's nothing more we're going to be more emotionally invested in than our child or our family. Think big picture, though. Very often, the things that we're stressing about now are not likely to be critically important in the scheme of our child's or our family's lifetime. It's far more important that how we come to our decisions will have greater impact on the life of our child or our adult and our family than the decision itself. Some decisions simply can't be compromisable, right? We can't compromise on whether to have more children or not. And we can't compromise on whether to have our child undergo some medical procedure or not. So, a strategy to manage this, there's no easy answers except discuss in detail and listen to what your partner is saying. Who is the decision more important to? Why? What are the potential consequences or outcomes of each choice? Listen. Seek professional guidance, right? Go to the medical experts if it's a medical issue. Go to the financial experts if it's a financial issue. Do your research. So let's take a look at some PWS marital cycles that are pretty common, and let's take a look at some ways out of those cycles too. So the first cycle we're going to look at is that uh, PWS marital stress cycle, right? So we can start anywhere in a cycle, right? But let's start with the PWS symptoms increase the stress on our marriage because certainly they will, right? So PWS symptoms increase marital stress, and then that marital stress increases the stress on our child, right? If we're stressed, it's going to stress our kid. And then the stress on our kid increases their symptoms, certainly when they're older, which then brings us back to the beginning of the cycle, right? Too often, we're not even aware we're in a cycle until we're knee deep in an unhealthy one. So all it takes to break a cycle is for one in the couple to do something different. So increase your awareness of the unconscious reactions that you're more prone to, right? Breathe deeply, calm yourself to think more clearly, and to formulate a thoughtful response to the stressor at hand and create a healthier interaction. Even if you're just pointing out, hey, hold on, I think we're in a cycle. The more united and calm we are as a marital unit, the more stable and calm our home environment is likely to be. The more stable and calm our home environment is, the more stable and calm our child with Prader-Willi syndrome will feel. The more stable and calm our child with Prader-Willi syndrome feels, the fewer behavioral outbursts there are likely to be. The fewer behavioral outbursts there are, the calmer our household will be, and so the positive cycle continues. There's a more, I call it the more stressed, more exhausted competition, right? Whether we say it out loud or just think it in our head, the more stressed, more exhausted competition will influence our interactions with our partner. So you might say, oh my God, I have so much stress. I have so much more stress than you. I have to worry about the whole family. To which your partner might say, what? You have no idea how much work I do. I take care of everything around here. And on we go. This competition often leads to the you're not helping enough cycle, right? Again, it's a cycle. We can start wherever. But let's start here. You're not helping. I'm exhausted. And we say that, to which our partner says, all right, I'll help. I'll diaper the baby or I'll make the lunches, right? They do that. And then you might say, no, 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 that's not how you do it. You didn't diaper the baby right. You put mayonnaise on the bread. We don't use mayonnaise in the house. That's too many calories. Which leads to your partner saying, I'm not helping anymore. I do it wrong anyway. I get criticized anyway, which leads us back to the you're not helping. I'm exhausted. How do we get out of this, right? So the first strategy is we've got to identify the pattern, right? The pattern most of the time is mom is irritatedly demanding help from dad, right? Then mom corrects what dad does. Dad feels criticized, stops trying. Mom does everything. Mom feels exhausted and overwhelmed. And then mom irritatedly demands dad's help, and on we go. So you identify the pattern first, and then when either of you sees that pattern, take a deep breath, three of them, and then comment on it. Oh, I think we're in that you're not helping cycle. And then ask directly, specifically, and gently for what you want or what you need. Ask your partner maybe what you can do to be helpful. And then express appreciation. Don't correct or criticize the help you receive, especially in the moment. Maybe you talk about it later. Some more strategies to improve that you're not helping cycle. Well, for new and established fathers, there's a whole host in your handout, but I just want to point out, calmly remind your spouse that different does not mean wrong, right? If you're doing things, if you're diapering the baby differently than your partner, doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. So remind her, your partner, that wrong doesn't mean different doesn't mean wrong, and that you and your baby or your child or your adult are fine. You'll manage it. And the strategies I want to kind of point out to moms are, unless it's absolutely necessary, don't correct your spouse's care of the child or the adult. Don't criticize them. Provide parenting suggestions later, and certainly in private. And again, different does not mean wrong. So tolerate that your partner may just be doing it differently. Another strategy is to walk a hallway in your partner's shoes. Because when we're walking a hallway in our partner's shoes, we are actually practicing empathy. Empathy is the ability to experience another person's emotions and respond to them in a heartfelt way. The ability to put yourself in your spouse's shoes is a critical leadership quality. So model leadership to your whole family. Just as empathy is a critical tool to reduce emotional reactivity in our spousal relationship, so too is empathy an absolutely critical tool to reduce emotional reactivity in our loved one diagnosed with Prader-Willi syndrome. How do we incorporate empathy? Well, we reflect to our partner or our kid with the syndrome what we hear or believe they're thinking or feeling, listening and reflecting it back, just saying it back. Imagine how you would feel if you were in the same situation. And then wonder and ask about your spouse's perceptions or experiences or inspirations or thoughts or feelings. No accusations, negative judgment. Simply listen to the answers. Another strategy is the divide and conquer strategy. Um, Division of labor and specialization are necessary to the overall functioning of the PWS family unit. A spouse who works full-time outside the home cannot also do the bulk of household and childcare tasks. Likewise, the person who works full-time in the home can't do all the household and childcare tasks all of the time. So division of labor, flexibility, and communication are key. Specifically discuss and agree how to divide and manage household tasks, from cleaning toilets to yard work to menu planning to grocery shopping to cooking to laundry to reconciling medical statements and bill paying. Trade tasks as necessary. Specifically discuss and agree how to divide and manage childcare tasks, right? From getting the kids to getting them dressed to transporting them to school or the day program to homework or to medical and therapy appointments to play dates and outings. Trade tasks as necessary. Determine who hates to do specific tasks and who doesn't mind or even likes to do specific tasks. And there's a card game called the Fair Play Deck that you can get it on Amazon, and it can make chore division maybe even a little fun. Specialization is absolutely necessary to the PWS family. In a perfect world, both parents would be well educated on all aspects of PWS symptom management throughout the lifetime. But we don't live in a perfect world. So discuss who's going to specialize in what aspect of care and teach the other what you've learned. That's where, again, it's important that you're coming to educational conferences, attending webinars, support group meetings, medical and therapy appointments, IEP school meetings, right? Attending partner should be sharing the information they've learned with the non-attending partner, who shall be listening attentively, asking questions, and learning so that we both have the information that is needed. Both partners really should be taking PWS specific behavior management courses at every developmental stage of your child or your adult's lifetime. Um, Most of us believe that the way we think or the way we do things is the right way. Of course we do. If our partner fails to think or do things our way, this can lead to conflict. Why would you do it that way? Why do you think that way? That's just wrong. These differences can devolve into right-wrong battles. So in this cycle, we're each fighting to win the argument, which leaves the other partner automatically feeling like they're losing. And nobody likes to lose. So a prolonged pattern of right-wrong battles can result in creating built-up resentment. Getting out of the right-wrong battle will help decrease the hostility and resentment between you and your partner. So how do we do that? Remind yourself there's always at least two perspectives, yours and your partner's, and neither one is likely to be 100% right or 100% wrong. Remind yourself that right-wrong battles are typically about control and that you don't need to be in control to be safe. Offer frequently, you might be right. I understand you think X. I think it's a little bit more like Y in this case. You think X because blah, blah, blah. I understand. I believe Y is better in this case because. Just discuss it. Change your thinking from that's wrong to that's different, right? Uh, Ask open-ended questions. Why does your partner think or behave the way they do? And listen to their response. Look for that grain of truth in what your partner's saying or what they're complaining about. There's almost always some grain of truth in our partner's criticism or complaint. Here's how we find it. First, we've got to presume there is a grain of truth. Then we look for it, we consider it. Maybe we share, you might be right, or maybe we share, well, let me think on that. Let me think about that. Acknowledge the part of the complaint or the statement that you've decided, well, that actually has some truth to it. If you really can't see any grain of truth, ask your spouse why they think the way they do. Again, listen to that response and repeat from step one. Extricate yourself from a pattern as soon as you recognize it, right? Breathe. Maybe you say, oh, we're in that pattern again. Let's take a time out. Let's meet up again. 5 minutes, okay with you? Give yourself the gift of time to calm your primitive brain. I'm getting really agitated right now and I need a break. Let's take a time out and meet again in 5 minutes, okay? Is that okay with you? So let's do a quick exercise on how do you find that grain of truth? So what if your partner says to me, you don't love me. You never call me anymore and you don't ask me how I'm doing. You don't even think about me. I don't matter to you. You just don't care. Hmm. What's the grain of truth in that? Because you're like, what? What's the grain of truth in that? Well, maybe you don't call as often as you used to. It's not that you don't care or love her or blah, blah, or him, blah, blah, blah. It's the grain of truth is maybe you don't call as often as you used to. And so then you may reflect back, I guess I don't call as often as I used to. That doesn't mean I don't love you, though, because I do. I will make more of an effort to call you during the day whenever I can. If I'm not calling you more, it's because I honestly can't, but I will be more conscious of it and call you when I can. It's human nature to defend ourselves against a perceived attack. You never set up our partner to defend themselves against a global accusation, and it just shuts down listening. So avoid using always and never statements. The use of I statements can be quite effective. I statements really can help. I statements help clarify what you're needing or wanting. They help you clarify what you want clearly and directly, and they help you ask for it gently without blame. Right? An I statement in the previous situation might sound like, I remember when you used to call in the middle of the day to say hi. I felt special all day long. I miss your calls. I'd really like you to call me more often if you're able. What a lovely I statement. Here's an exercise. Find the real I statement. I can't believe you just watched me fold all that laundry and never offered to help. I think you're really inconsiderate. A lot of I's in there. Or what about this one? Can you please help me fold the laundry? I'm just exhausted tonight. Where's the I statement? Well, if you said this one, meh, you're wrong. Because even though there's a lot of I's in there, it is blaming. This one is really the I statement, right? I'm exhausted. I need your help tonight. And if you might even follow it up with, if we get it finished faster, we'll have time to relax or cuddle or play or even make love. Wouldn't that be lovely? And just to point out, this is Jana Lee and Al Heineman, heroes of mine. It's important that we express our irritation, disappointment, anger, hurt, etc., directly and clearly so that resentments don't build up. We don't need to point out every annoyance, though. That's really not the point. It's crucial that we express our feelings appropriately. Right? How do we do that? Unexpressed feelings can lead to resentment. Feelings that are expressed inappropriately can lead to disconnect. Accusations and character assaults undermine connection and intimacy. Saying I'm sorry does not take away the hurt or make it all better, just like you cannot unring a bell. It's wrong. So express your feelings thoughtfully and appropriately. Choose conducive timing before you speak, breathe. So might sound like I'm so angry. I feel completely taken it for granted. I feel ignored. I feel tired all the time. Pardon me. I've asked you to pick up your hair from the bathroom floor and you just don't do it. Why not? That's pretty appropriate, right? Not, what's wrong with you, you selfish, inconsiderate SOB? That's not so good. Remember the rules we learned back in kindergarten. Be kind. You can express your anger, just do it kindly. A few of the basic rules we learned at kindergarten are going to help us in our marital relationships. Actually, all relationships, right? Be kind, be helpful, be respectful, do your best, keep your hands to yourself, keep your space clean. Are you having trouble being nice, like I do sometimes? Pretend you're speaking to a friend or a valued co-worker, right? Instead of your partner, just pretend you're speaking to a friend that you want to think you're a nice person. Pretend you're being observed by someone you want to think highly of you. I think of my grandfather looking down on me, so it helps me speak more kindly to my husband. Changing the way we express ourselves can feel foreign, uncomfortable. Do it anyway. It eventually will feel more natural. Positive thoughts create and sustain positive thoughts and feelings. Negative thoughts promote and sustain negative thoughts and feelings. You can change your negative feelings by shifting your negative thoughts to more positive ones. It might feel phony. Do it anyway. Eventually, it helps. Share your need for help before negative thoughts or resentment build. People typically choose partners whose emotional maturity matches their own. You will be better than your spouse at some things. Yeah. Your spouse will be better than you at other things. Yeah. Remind yourself you are not better than your spouse overall, and neither is your spouse better than you overall. Remind yourself of your partner's positive qualities and competence. Marriage is not 50-50. Thinking you can split workloads down the middle with your partner is nice, but probably not tenable idea. Sometimes the effort you put in is going to be 70%, while your partner's is only 30, or maybe even 90-10. Aim toward 50-50, sure, but know it's going to shift. Monitor your negative thoughts, especially during those times where you feel like you're carrying more of the workload. Ah, the marital priority totem pole, and the complaint we often hear from at least one in the partner, usually husbands. So, um, you know, uh, the priority in our family is the child with Prader-Willi syndrome and the sibling needs. And then the priority in the family is employment and financial needs. says one partner. And then the priority is insurance and medical and therapy needs, and then the children's educational needs, and then the household and pet needs, and then extended family and friend needs, and then there's always something else and something else and something else. And then there's our marital relationship needs way down there. And I can barely feel that I'm a priority in this family. The more time we spend with our partner, the more connected we're likely to feel. Of course. And we probably would spend more time with our partner if we could spend more time with them, right? So the greatest barrier to couples spending more time together is typically lack of childcare, supervision, babysitters. Too often, we don't feel like there are family members, babysitters, respite providers who can competently care for our loved one. So that's where it is critically important that we are continuously focusing on training up and educating our babysitters and respite providers. Again, contact your local and state federal agencies, reach out to local agents, schools, and recruit those therapists who are students. They gain that experience while you gain care. Ask PWS organizations to help you educate and train those care providers. So, how do we spend time connecting alone with our partner when we cannot leave the house? Well, maybe when the kids are at school or at the day program or even after they go to bed at night. Just spend a few moments chatting at the end of the day about what went well, what went poorly, what was stressful, how you managed that stress. Don't criticize. Don't offer solutions unless it's specifically asked for, right? Maybe you have to preface with, I'd just like you to listen, not comment or offer any help. Or maybe you'd like to preface, I'd love your feedback on what I'm about to share. Watch a comedy on TV together. Humor is a powerful energy. In our household, we end the night by watching some, silly sitcom that we both think is funny. Enjoy a romantic picnic in your bed behind closed doors. Sit in the front porch together and talk about your hopes, dreams, plan the upcoming weekend, or maybe just talk about your next vacation. Enjoy a nice glass of wine with cheese and crackers or make some s'mores by the backyard fire pit. Enjoy relaxing, just being together. More strategies, build in couple family time as often as possible. Time together doesn't have to cost money. Play cards, play board games, play badminton, play hoover ball. Look for me later and I'll share you how hoover ball is a fantastic physical activity for our ones with Prader-Willi syndrome. Take walks together. Reminisce about your history, why you fell in love, your wedding, your hopes, your dreams, your first apartment or your house, your children's births. Look at photographs together. Don't be afraid to talk about the kids on one of those rare dates. You have them in common. Remind yourself why you love your spouse. I love my spouse. I love my spouse. Eat dinner together more as a family, more nights than not. Go to bed with your spouse more nights than not. Kiss each other goodnight before you go to sleep. Don't make major decisions or major purchases without your partner's input and agree upon what constitutes a major purchase or decision. Practice really listening to your partner more. More suggestions. Protect spouse and family time. Limit your screen time. Limit your phone calls when you're together. Make an effort. Be curious about why your partner thinks or feels the way they do. Respect your partner's concerns. Don't discount or belittle them when you disagree with them. Apologize if you make a mistake or if you're too harsh or if you hurt your partner's feelings. Presume your spouse has your family's best interest at heart. If you believe otherwise, unless your partner has a character anomaly, presume there's too much stress getting in the way of their compassion and help reduce that stress. Tag team childcare with your spouse. Presume your spouse is competent. If your spouse is actually not competent, find non-critical ways to help increase their competency in their parenting skills. Educate other people about Prader-Willi syndrome, about how PWS impacts your loved one, how PWS must be managed, and it's a never-ending task. Calmly continue to educate others about the syndrome for not just the sake of your loved one and your family, but for the sake of all the families that are going to follow us, right? The more people we know that we educate about PWS, the more people know about PWS. So the question, to divorce or not to divorce, right? If you view your spouse as just another cause of your stress and believe that divorce will just reduce or remove that stress, you are probably mistaken. Divorce typically adds new stressors. If your spouse is physically or emotionally abusive, or is dangerously abusing alcohol or drugs, or has a serious mental or psychiatric illness that puts you and your family at risk, you likely have no choice but to separate. But apart from that, divorce typically negatively impacts children and increases anxiousness within the child with Prader-Willi syndrome, no matter what the age. Divorced or not, you and your partner, if you're continuously fighting and treating each other disrespectfully, this behavior will be destructive to everybody in the household. So focus on managing your behavior. Even if it doesn't help improve your marriage, it's going to improve your life. Marriages that endure manage to maintain that we're in this boat together team approach. So work together to strengthen your marriage and create a supportive environment for your loved one with PWS and your entire family. Work together to move from a sinking ship to smooth sailing. For more information and support, I've given you my contact information in your handout. I love talking to families who have a loved one with Prader-Willi syndrome. Um, and now, with whatever time we have remaining, I would love to take your questions. Shoot me an email or send me a phone call. Either which way, I look forward to connecting with you. Bye-bye.